Tell everyone I'm Kira Phillips. Despite history, hurdles, and a lot of hard work, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson has been confirmed. She will soon take that seat on the highest court in the land, the first African-American woman to be called Justice. Justice is served, and I am told that KBJ was sitting next to the President of the United States in the Roosevelt Room at the White House for the historic moment. For more, let's bring in our roundtable of experts. Okay, CK, everybody was telling me they could see you in the monitor. You were in tears. So go ahead. You have the floor.
I was trying to adjust my makeup. I was in tears. You know, there's a sense, Kira, of validation. When I say validation, she deserved to be there, much like Senator Schumer said, like Senator Booker said. She earned this day. Her experience led her to this moment. But there was this extreme sense of validation as I watched this. When I watched the numbers increase, when I watched Senator Warnock from my state vote, cast the 50th vote in support of her confirmation, that also moved me to a very important point, because but for the contributions of Georgia with Senators Ossoff and Senators Warnock, the Democrats would not have had the majority. To see Vice President Kamala Harris standing there presiding over the proceeding, all of that just caused, and envisioning how Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson must feel in this very moment. And how I felt, the only thing I could think of was validation, finally. Validation for me, validation for her, validation for all of Black women, validation for the young girls who look up to Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, who feel that no matter what, no matter how hard it's been, the challenges that you confront, you have to keep on persevering, because you could be a justice on the U.S. Supreme Court, even with the type of criticism and daunting process that she's gone through. So yes, I was crying. I didn't know that it was captured. I was trying to adjust my makeup, but I was crying tears of joy, tears of sadness, tears of validation. And the sadness only that it took this long for it to happen, but tears of joy that it did happen, and that God saw fit for me to see this day, to experience this moment. And so I just hope that the type of synergy, the type of solidarity, there's so many people that stood in solidarity to support the candidacy, the nomination, and the confirmation of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson across all aisles, across all colors, who were not in the Senate, who were there praying for her, supporting, calling the U.S. Senate day in and day out, 10, 15 times a day. We saw just unprecedented solidarity from the left, from the right, police unions, from law enforcement, the police unions, from so many different entities, including, of course, the civil rights organizations, the Black women organizations, the bar organizations, the Black women bar organizations that stood there, refused to be denied. So to see it all come together gives me so much hope. But I hope also that this level of cooperation and collaboration, where we did have 3 Republican senators to support her confirmation, will bode well for the future, because we have a lot of work ahead of us. We have voting rights, we have civil rights, we have policing reform. We have so much that we have to do in this country to heal, and we have to do it together. So this historic confirmation gives all of us hope for the future on so many levels. And that is the real significance of this confirmation of this eminently qualified, brilliant African-American woman jurist. And so again, I couldn't do anything but cry, to be perfectly frank with you.
That's okay. And the beauty of this format here on ABC News Live is we have a chance to let things breathe, have longer discussions, go in deep, get personal, get professional, CK. And just looking at the panel that we have right now of the women along with Devin that are joining me to talk about this confirmation, I want to take it to Rachel Scott, our congressional correspondent. And Rachel, now you get a chance, of course, to talk about the historic nature of this, but also, too, as a young Black woman there covering the Hill. This had to have been an amazing thing for you to watch as well.
Well, I think the moment is certainly not lost on anyone here on Capitol Hill, among Democrats and Republicans alike. You know, walking over here to this live shot, I passed dozens of people who were lined up to enter the gallery. You had members of the staff of the Congressional Black Caucus, of the Hispanic Caucus, and all with smiles on their face, those who weren't wearing a face mask. And on the way over, I stopped and I talked to one staffer who just told me all she feels is joy. And that is really the word that I have heard from so many Democrats up here on Capitol Hill, that feeling of joy. Joy at this moment that is 233 years in the making. Joy of 115 Supreme Court justices, 108 being white men, but now the first black woman not only nominated to serve, but actually confirmed to the bench. Joy that no Republican attack, they say, will be able to take that away. We'd certainly heard Democratic Senator Cory Booker say that during the confirmation hearings and the process that played out there. The weight of this moment is certainly not lost. And Judge Jackson, she's very qualified. Republicans will say that as well. So much discussion of just how corrosive and toxic this entire process has become. And Senator Lisa Murkowski, who voted to support Judge Jackson, one of the 3 Republican votes, saying that in many ways she was rejecting some of that corrosive politics. She says some of these attacks have grown more and more detached from reality by the day. But certainly today, a historic moment, and though Republicans wanted to slow down this process, they could not stop it. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson now becoming the nation's first black woman to be confirmed to the United States Supreme Court, Kira.
Rachel, thanks so much. I want to take it now to my colleague, Lindsay Davis, who has been reporting both for the network alongside David Muir, and here on ABC News Live, she anchors Prime. She's been covering this. Lindsay, I guess 2 questions for you. Your personal reflections right now about this historic moment, and also you pointed out earlier that there's a number of firsts going on here with regard to Judge Jackson, and that is, you think Judge Jackson, yes, Justice, right. The 3 J's, right? Justice finally served. I'm going to keep it there. So many firsts here. First former public defender, first Florida-raised judge, first time 3 justices of color serving together. I mean, we just can keep going. The list of firsts doesn't stop.
And along with her qualifications as well, Kira, because if you even look at her experience in on the federal courts, 9 years, which is more than any of the current justices who serve, and it really goes on and on and on. As far as my personal reflections, you know, I think about when I was a little girl, and Debbie Thomas, if you remember her, she was an ice skater in the Winter Olympics,
yes,
and yes, and I never wanted to be a figure skater, but just looking at somebody excelling in a space that they normally and traditionally were not, really gave me a perspective and planted a seed of what was possible. And so I look at this moment from one place to the next when you have the Vice President, Kamala Harris, who's the one who's actually doing the confirming of this confirmation with Ketanji Brown Jackson. And all of the firsts, and all of the firsts still yet to come that have not happened yet. And so I imagine that this is invigorating for young girls who are growing up as this is their normal, right? I mean, this is at a certain point we're not going to have to keep track of the first and the second and third because it just will seem so expected.
And Devin, you've been covering this from the very beginning. Look, the Supreme Court is your beat. You've had a chance to sit down and have intimate interviews with all the Supreme Court justices. I am sure you're going to be knocking on the door to get the first sit down with Judge Jackson once she becomes Justice Jackson. What are you thinking about right now, knowing the Supreme Court so well, covering it for so many years, all the details for us, and how you think she'll be accepted, how she's going to fit into the mix here? How is diversity going to look?
It's such an interesting moment for this court, Kira. The most conservative court in a generation, 3 new justices. She'll be the second youngest justice on this court. And we do talk about the historic nature of her confirmation in terms of diversity. But there's so much more to that. Just the experience that she brings, as we've been talking about, as the first ever public defender on that bench. Significant. She'll have a perspective of everyday Americans in the judicial system. As a trial judge, there aren't many of those on the bench right now. How facts are gathered and assessed at that level of the proceedings. And of course, born here in D.C., but raised in Miami. You know, most of the justices on the bench are from the East Coast. That's a significant dimension. So there are lots of facets to her experience. Just the connection to law enforcement, her brother in the military, that will add some interesting dimensions. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but the first time, starting this fall, that we'll see 4 women, nearly half that bench will be women, and I think you can't really overestimate just how significant those changes are going to be on this court when they meet behind those curtains to talk about the cases in private in the conference room. You know, that's where this perspective is going to come into play, and I don't think any of us can truly predict how it's going to go, frankly. I mean, she is just going to be getting started in October. She'll be there potentially for 30 years alongside Amy Coney Barrett, the youngest justice, 50 years old. So this is a court changing before our eyes, and it's going to be quite some time until we see truly how this is going to shake out. But an exciting moment for sure, and to see 3 of those justices in the liberal wing of the court, all women, a remarkable moment for the court and the country, Kira.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.